KCRA3's Mike LUERY traveled to Phoenix for this exclusive report.
They're landing now in Phoenix. California chief executives on the move, eager to relocate their companies and bring thousands of new jobs to Arizona. The CEOs will meet these Arizona mayors and other leaders proclaiming, now arriving, California.
Come to Arizona. It's a better place to do business.
Arizona is more than just desert. It's an oasis for Californians fed up with the highest personal income tax rates and the highest sales tax rates in the country. And California is the worst state in the nation to do business for 8 years in a row, according to Chief Executive Magazine.
We do not have the regulatory and tax and expense and anti-business attitude that exists in California.
Is our culture.
Barry Broom is the president of the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, and it was his idea to target California executives and lure them to Arizona. But first, he needed a marketing tool, and Governor Jerry Brown gave him one.
Let's hold up our Prop 30 signs.
Last November 6th, Brown convinced California voters to raise taxes by more than $6 billion annually.
And within an hour, we put the program together and went into the market.
So Prop 30 fueled the campaign?
Absolutely, completely. We had over 57 companies right off the bat.
And currently, 19 CEOs have told Broom they are definitely leaving California.
When the California chief executives come here to Arizona, they'll get an aerial tour of Greater Phoenix, just like this one. The campaign goal is to give them an overview of the region that might become their new home.
These are private residences that are below us on the golf course.
So this would be a likely candidate for the CEO of one of the companies that we're talking to now. I mean,
those CEOs will see the high-end housing market in Greater Phoenix, in an area where it appears that every home has a pool. And back on the ground, they'll meet with Arizona's top education leaders, including Dr. Michael Crow, the president of Arizona State University. He'll tell the CEOs,
we are here to be of service to you.
And at the state capitol, Arizona's top elected officials have open arms and open doors for the California CEOs. Their message, they'll take better care of California companies.
We'll be a state that they can rely on to not overburden their businesses when they're here. We're open for business. We mean it, and we're ready to go forward, and we're going to do what we can to get you here.
And the campaign is working. Business relocation expert Joe Vranich says his phone has been ringing nonstop.
The big motivating factor right now is the passage of Prop 30 in the last election. I like to say that the reason companies leave California is they're suffering death by 1,000 cuts.
It's a sensitive subject for Governor Brown.
California's business climate, any concerns about that?
In 1975, Dow Jones put out a report called the Fairness Report that said California had the absolute worst business climate. That was 1975. The personal income in California was $150 billion. Today, it's close to $2 trillion. So take it with a grain of salt.
Brown established the Office of Business and Economic Development, GoBiz, to make California more competitive.
So it seems pretty clear that Arizona means business. What does California stand for?
We've always meant business. You know, California has always been a leader in innovation, a leader in business creation.
But other states, like Arizona, are already banking on a big exodus from California.
California did generate more than 250,000 new jobs in the last 12 months, but the state is on the brink of losing at least 19 companies that are fed up with the business climate here.
KCRA3's Mike LUERY traveled to Texas to find out why their economy is growing faster than ours and how California is fighting back.
Inside the Austin city limits, you'll find a vibrant music scene and a growing metropolis that's home to the University of Texas.
In Texas, size definitely matters. That's why it's no coincidence that the Texas state capitol here in Austin is actually taller than the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. Because in Texas, bigger is better. But in California, critics say bigger means more government and higher taxes. And some businesses are now beginning to vote with their feet by moving out.
I knew we just needed to get out of California.
Greg Story is the president of HappyCog, a website development firm now based in Austin. His company moved here from the Bay Area just over a year ago. He says his employees are making good salaries, some of them in the low six-figure range, and with no state income tax, their money goes farther.
So for all of us who were in California, just by moving here, you get an additional bump of about 10 to 11%.
Story says the Austin market offers a huge pool of talent in a state with fewer rules and regulations.
Just here in Austin, we have a payroll that's around $1.5 million annually, and that's growing.
CEO Magazine just named Texas the best place to do business in the country for the 9th year in a row, while California was dead last. Former California Assemblyman Chuck DeVore is not surprised. He moved to Texas last year and wrote a book about the state's prosperity. It's called The Texas Model.
Well, I think in Texas, the whole attitude is, how can we help you do business? Whereas here, business, I think, is almost looked as an adversary.
But critics of the Texas model say while executives may earn good wages, laborers get the short stick.
We've seen that the Texas jobs are primarily low-wage, oftentimes minimum-wage jobs, and that's the economy that they've really built there in Texas, which, you know, is fine for them, but that's not right for California.
Oh, I like that one.
California prides itself in creating green energy from the wind and the sun. Paramount Solar of Roseville is actually adding jobs.
We have averaged 45 people a month, new hires a month, over the past 8 months. We've hired over 215 people just since January, and we'll hire another 160 to 170 over the next 3 months.
California is committed to generating 1/3 of all its energy from green resources by 2020. But transplants like Ron Middlestad, who moved his company to Texas, say California must do more to improve its business climate.
We want California to be competitive. I think we in Texas, throughout the country, need California to be competitive.
And when it comes to residential solar, California is in fact leading the way. So there are some bright spots in the economy. But in the last 12 months, Texas created 53,000 more jobs than California. So we definitely have our work cut out for us.
And like you've mentioned in your stories, and people have heard, no state income tax in Texas. So let's talk about how they balance their budget there.
Right. In Texas, about 90% of it comes from property taxes and sales taxes. Most of the rest comes from oil and gas tax. By contrast, California very heavily dependent on the personal income tax, which can go up or down and be very volatile.
KCRA 3's Mike LUERY is live at the Capitol with reactions to this landmark legislation. Mike?
Well, Edie, KCRA 3 was the only station outside the governor's office today when the news broke and he had signed that historic measure into law. There was plenty of reaction, including opponents who said it was nothing less than an assault on traditional family values. But supporters were thrilled by the governor's action.
A bill just became a law.
Jubilation today outside Jerry Brown's office, where these transgender supporters are applauding the governor's signature. For Devin Marchand, a transgender nursing student at Folsom Lake Community College, the new law, she says, will be positive.
I mentor families across the nation, and I believe that this will give them the opportunities to participate in extracurricular activities or the sports without fear of discrimination or prejudice against transgender people.
The new law allows public school students to self-identify their gender, enabling them to try out for the sports teams or use the locker rooms of their choice.
I'm transgender myself, and I had to miss classes and programs because of my identity. And no student should have to lie about themselves in order to get all the credits they need to graduate.
The issue inspired transgender student Ashton Lee of Manteca High School to deliver petitions 2 weeks ago demanding that Governor Brown sign the bill. But opponents have also been very vocal on this bill, as evidenced by the thousands of petitions that were delivered last week to the governor's doorstep. We talked to some of them today, who told us the new law is an assault on families with traditional values.
Where down the line is it going to end? At what point are we going to stop this snowball effect?
Who are you going to miss the most?
Ruth Davis is a mother of 6 and worries about how the new law could affect her 9-year-old daughter.
She's going to be at a K-8 school. She could potentially have a 14-year-old boy walking in on her in the bathroom. I don't understand how we're protecting all of the children.
The bill's author had this response.
In the long run, this will be good for kids who are not transgender, because I think they will have the right information and not feel like they need to ridicule or intimidate, and that's not a bad thing at all.
Now, Governor Brown's office said he signed the bill today because, quote, all students should have the opportunity to fully participate and succeed in school, end quote. That new law goes into effect, by the way, on January 1st. Reporting live from the state capitol, Mike LUERY, KCRA 3 News.
So it goes into effect kind of midway through the school year, but are there any districts already implementing this type of law?
Well, Edie, as a matter of fact, there are 2 already doing this. One is San Francisco, the other Los Angeles, so they've already begun to transition into that. The other 56 counties will have to catch up to speed when that law goes into effect on January 1st.